And now to hear you talk about it and to hear anybody talk about the wokeness was put in place for a reason. Please stop using that phrase and talking about because you don't understand what you're saying. You're saying about yourself that, you know, hey, that's a terrible thing to be. It's not a terrible thing to be. That's why we fought.
All right, folks, buckle up. The View is in full meltdown mode, teetering on the edge of collapse. Too late. That's the cold, cutting response Caroline Leavitt just fired back at the View's frantic on-air plea to silence her staggering /$800 million lawsuit. And if you thought this legal firestorm was fizzling out, think again. While Whoopi, Joy, and Sonny scramble to play nice to the cameras, Caroline isn't backing down. She's doubling down. For ABC, the timing couldn't be worse. Just weeks ago, they mocked her lawsuit, laughing it off as a right-wing publicity stunt. Now they're practically begging for a truce under the harsh, unforgiving glare of daytime TV. Caroline's message couldn't be clearer. Too late. Meanwhile, behind closed doors at ABC, the panic is getting messier by the minute. So before we dive deeper into backroom chaos and network desperation, smash that like button. And if you haven't yet, hit subscribe for more stories the mainstream media would rather keep buried. Ready? Let's jump in.
Caroline Leavitt is the press secretary at the White House, doing a great job. Such a great job that the ladies of The View feel the green monster coming upon them. They really don't like this woman. She's a good communicator.
And this wasn't just another episode of The View. It was the start of a storm that none of the hosts ever saw coming. The moment Caroline Leavitt announced her /$800 million defamation lawsuit, the studio lit up with smug smiles and sarcastic chuckles. They didn't take her seriously. Not for a second. Joy Behar, always quick with jab, brushed it off like a failed punchline. This is just another PR move, she scoffed, waving it away. Asterisk, another conservative crying for attention. Asterisk, Whoopi, lounging in her usual spot, rolled her eyes. We've had worse, she mumbled. Asterisk, it'll vanish by next week. Asterisk Sunny Hostin, the show's resident legal expert, flashed her signature confident grin. Asterisk, this case has no legs. None. It'll be tossed before it ever sees a courtroom. Asterisk, the audience laughed with them. Business as usual. Another day, another guest, another throwaway segment. But what none of them realized was that Caroline wasn't bluffing. She wasn't doing this for headlines or sound bites. She came armed, with facts, with receipts, with a legal team working in silence behind scenes. While The View laughed, Caroline's squad was already in motion, pulling air footage, combing through archived episodes, cross-referencing show notes, scanning internal emails, poring over producer messages. Every detail, every slip, every word. Caroline's strategy was simple. Don't react, just gather. And while Whoopi and Joy cracked jokes on live TV, ABC's legal department was sweating bullets backstage. Producers started getting urgent emails asking if they remembered specific conversations. Editors were ordered to dig up raw, uncut footage. Legal assistants combed through storage, hunting old files nobody thought they'd need again. Because what Caroline alleged wasn't some petty misquote or careless line. It was character assassination. Not spontaneous, not accidental, but orchestrated. A hit job, engineered in advance by the same people now waving her off as overdramatic. And this time, Caroline wasn't going anywhere.
The fact that his bond...
Hold on. Sir.
What's
I have to stop you with the camera, because I can see you. So do me a favor, don't pull it out again.
Then came the bombshell. Leaked emails from the show's internal Slack. One message read, asterisk, Joy should press her hard on the youth angle, get her flustered early. Asterisk another. Asterisk keep the audience engaged, cut the reactions when she stutters. Asterisk a handwritten note in a producer's planning notebook. Said it all. Asterisk. Let her dig her own grave. Just ask about Trump, she'll spiral. Asterisk. This was no longer just about what aired live. It was about what happened long before the cameras even rolled. The same laughter that once filled living rooms across America now played back in eerie silence inside courtrooms, law offices, and media war rooms nationwide. Caroline didn't scream. She didn't rant. She didn't fire off some fiery Twitter thread or cryptic subtweet. She didn't have to. She quietly handed her legal team the evidence, then stepped back. No headlines, no noise, just cold, undeniable receipts. And while the network braced for impact, the legal wheel she set in motion turned with quiet, relentless precision, steady, unstoppable, devastating.
Democrats and the media are now unloading all their nasty attacks on rising Trump White House star and new press secretary, Caroline Leavitt.
Because when you got truth on your side, you don't need to shout. You just need to wait. And that's exactly what Caroline did. As the days dragged on, the mood inside ABC flipped like a switch. What started as smug confidence turned into nerves, then full-blown panic. Early meetings were breezy. We've had worse. One executive shrugged during a Monday morning Zoom. Asterisk, this will pass like all the others. Asterisk. But by Thursday, those meetings had morphed into nonstop crisis calls. Top-tier lawyers were flown in. Damage control consultants were hired. Executives canceled vacations. Entire departments were ordered to gather documentation. PR teams were told to monitor sentiment every hour, because what began as a lawsuit was now a raging PR inferno. And here's the kicker. Caroline's team hadn't even begun discovery yet. That was when everything really started to unravel. Discovery meant both sides had to turn over every piece of evidence. No exceptions. Emails between hosts and producers. Raw footage before and after segments. Planning notes. Staff complaints. Internal warnings about show conduct. And yes, there were warnings. One leaked internal memo from 6 months earlier spelled it out. Asterisk, I'm concerned recent interviews with younger conservative guests feel overly aggressive, borderline targeted. Asterisk another. From HR, asterisk, there's a pattern of strategic tension creation, unclear if it's editorial direction or personal bias. Asterisk.
They have mocked him, they have shamed him, they have lied about him consistently on their show. And it was a joy to watch them on November the 6th when they realized that tens of millions of Americans do not listen to the lies that they have spewed. These women are completely out of touch with reality. And you're right, ABC should.
These weren't just random notes. They were warnings. And they were ignored. As reality sank in, panic rippled through every level of the company. Interns who once fetched coffee during planning sessions were suddenly pulled aside and asked what they remembered. Junior producers made quiet calls to legal counsel. Some staff deleted old texts. Others frantically scrubbed group chats. And through it all, Caroline's team stayed silent. No press releases, no fiery interviews, no cryptic posts, just silence. Cold, calculated, tightly controlled. The kind of silence that doesn't beg for attention, but signals something far more dangerous. It was haunting. One ABC executive, visibly shaken, reportedly turned to a colleague and muttered, asterisk, it's like she's already won and we're just waiting for the paperwork. Asterisk.
You do know that you're walking into hostile territory, right?
Certainly do. And look, I think I'm well prepared for that. And I'm incredibly honored that President Trump has instilled confidence in me to speak on his behalf behind the White House podium. It's been an honor to have a front row seat to the greatest political comeback in history. And as you mentioned in your monologue, Sean, President Trump is putting together a brilliant cabinet of fantastic America First fighters, from Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, who are going to cut the waste out of our federal bureaucracy, to Susie Wiles, who is going to serve as the first female chief of staff in history. Take that, Mark Cuban, to Tom Homan. No one better to secure the border than him.
The crisis team kept asking for updates. The executives kept dodging because no one had good news. Every day unearthed a fresh liability. Every hour brought a new leak. The legal team floated the idea of a quiet settlement, but PR pushed back. A payout would scream guilt. And worse, what if Caroline said no? This wasn't just a lawsuit anymore. It was a war, and the network was losing it minute by minute. By the time the hosts were fully briefed, the damage was done. They had laughed at Caroline on air, shrugged her off behind closed doors, and now they were watching the empire crack beneath them. Whoopi Goldberg was furious. She didn't ease into the meeting. She stormed in straight from set, hair half done, makeup towels still in hand. She didn't even sit before exploding. Asterisk. We're seriously considering a deal with her? Asterisk. Executives scrambled to explain. The emails, the footage, the chilling reality that even one producer admitting fault could turn this into a full-blown media catastrophe. But Whoopi wasn't hearing it. We're making her look like a hero, she snapped. Asterisk. You think Twitter's bad now? Wait till they find out we paid her off. Asterisk. Joy Behar jumped in, voice sharp. Asterisk. We built this show. We carried this network through elections, scandals, shutdowns, and now we fold over one lawsuit. Asterisk. The room went still. Everyone turned toward Sonny Hostin, the lawyer, the one who always had the answer. But Sunny didn't yell. She didn't even lift her head. She simply slid the printed lawsuit back across the table and whispered, asterisk, she has enough to go to court. Asterisk, asterisk, if this goes public, it won't just be about us. It'll be about the entire network. Asterisk, Whoopi's eyes narrowed. Asterisk, you're saying we should apologize? Asterisk, Sunny said nothing, because deep down she already knew that might be the only way out. And that was the most terrifying truth of all.
There's too much BS floating out there, and now it's out of our hands. There's no way to control it, so now they're saying they're going to control it. I want to see what they're going to do.
When the cameras turned on that morning, something was undeniably off. The set of View looked the same, bright lights, familiar faces, but the energy was completely different. No jokes flew, no clever jabs, just silence, hanging in the air like fog. Long, uneasy pauses filled the space where banter used to live. Whoopi sat stiffly, hands folded tightly in front of her. The trademark smirk? Gone. She stared straight into the camera, took a slow, measured breath, and said softly, asterisk, things have gotten a little out of hand. Maybe we need to take a step back. Asterisk. That alone stunned viewers. But then Joy Behar, normally the first to brush off any backlash, spoke, and she didn't sound like herself. Her voice was shaky, tinged with something rare, uncertainty. I don't know why this has to go so far, she said. Asterisk, can't we just talk? Asterisk for first time in years. Joy didn't reach for the laugh. She didn't even try. Then Sunny leaned forward, her tone calm but focused, locking eyes with the lens like it was her last chance. Asterisk, Caroline, if you're watching, maybe there's a better way to solve this. Asterisk, 3 co-hosts, 3 unscripted pleas. No spin, no snark, just a raw, awkward attempt to reach across the fallout and stop the freefall. It didn't sound like control, it sounded like surrender.
The left pretends to be a champion of women until they find one who is a conservative. Once that happens, they love nothing more than tearing down women with the most petty and vacuous of insults.
Gone was the mocking, in its place, desperation. But Caroline didn't flinch. She didn't tweet. She didn't hold a press conference. She didn't even drop a cryptic post. Her team issued just one chilling line. Asterisk, oh, we are moving forward as planned. Asterisk, and just like that, the message was crystal clear. This wasn't about a conversation. It wasn't about compromise. It was about accountability. Caroline had waited, watched, gathered, and now, as the View scrambled to patch its image, she stayed silent, letting their unraveling speak louder than any words ever could. The hosts tried to soften their delivery, but viewers weren't fooled. This wasn't peace. It was fear. And America saw it. Within minutes of the episode airing, the internet exploded. Clips spread like wildfire, faster than anything The View had aired in months. Side-by-side comparisons popped up everywhere. The co-hosts mocking Caroline just a week ago, now suddenly pleading for civility. One viral tweet cut deep. Asterisk, if you weren't guilty, you wouldn't be begging. Asterisk, another read. Asterisk, that's not humility, that's fear. Asterisk, hashtag surge to the top. Hashtag Caroline was right. Hashtag View meltdown. Hashtag media accountability. Hashtag receipts don't lie. TikTok creators broke down the shift in tone frame by frame. YouTubers uploaded 30-minute videos dissecting Whoopi's expressions, Joy's body language, Sunny's choice of words. Meme pages dove in relentless. One meme showed Whoopi's face next to a sinking ship with the caption, asterisk, Captain goes down with a view. Asterisk, another showed Joy clutching a legal binder, eyes wide, with the text, asterisk, when a roast session becomes a deposition. Asterisk, it wasn't just funny, it was brutal. Inside ABC, the unraveling was undeniable. Executives were holding emergency sessions twice a day. Advertisers quietly backed out of contracts. Staffers started updating their resumes. Leaked memos revealed frantic email chains with subject lines like reputational risk escalation and asterisk contingency strategy. Asterisk, some execs floated the idea of a total rebrand. Others whispered what once seemed unthinkable. It might be time to end the show entirely. Because this wasn't just a lawsuit anymore. It was a brand crisis, a credibility crisis, a reckoning. And they were right. The damage wasn't just legal. It was emotional, cultural, historical.
Leavitt appears to be a fierce operator, but she's also 27 and arguably quite glamorous. So of course, the kind and progressive voices at The View reacted to her appointment like this.
All right.
What'd she say?
She basically said that they were going to give unqualified.
God, how boring!
Unqualified
Can they get
people,
somebody there not
The
so
Behind
tedious?
the Table podcast needs to apply for White House credentials.
Oh, they'd love having Joy in that room.
Joy
So
can
I got
go.
a question. So wait a second. So in other words, instead of Bob Woodward, they want Kim Kardashian? What? I don't get it.
The View had long sold itself as a voice of daytime truth-telling, a fearless forum for opinions, debates, and honest conversation. But now, viewers were seeing something else. The rehearsed lines, the manufactured tension, the chaos that wasn't spontaneous but scripted, and worst of all, the bullying, thinly veiled as harmless banter.
And now to hear you talk about it and to hear anybody talk about the wokeness was put in place for a reason.
And Caroline, she wasn't backing down. She wasn't asking for forgiveness or chasing the spotlight. She was standing firm, calm, clear, resolved. This had moved far beyond money. It was about principle, about setting the record straight, and millions of Americans were watching her do it, one quiet, deliberate step at a time.
Has gone woke, and now they have gone broke. They have their lowest approval ratings ever, and they are rallying around two of the most far-left leaders in their party, AOC and Jasmine Crockett. So that tells you the current state of the Democrat Party.
What happens next could rewrite the rule book for talk shows, for media figures, for how far networks can push before someone finally pushes back. Because Caroline didn't flinch. She stood her ground, she fought, and now the storm she unleashed is nowhere near finished. Caroline Leavitt didn't just file a lawsuit. She made media history. And something tells us she's only getting started. Let's be honest. Most lawsuits flash to the headlines, make some noise, drop a soundbite or two, then fade quietly into the background. But this one refuses to disappear. Because this isn't just any legal battle. This is Caroline Leavitt, a young conservative force, going head-to-head with one of the most iconic shows in daytime television, The View, and now it's spiraling into something far bigger than anyone expected. Whoopi Goldberg and her co-hosts thought Caroline would fold. They assumed the pressure, the spotlight, the media frenzy would be too much, that she'd take a quiet settlement, vanish from the narrative, and let them move on. But Caroline didn't just say no. She fired back with 6 words that rang like a warning shot. Asterisk. We are moving forward as planned. Asterisk. Now, Whoopi, Joy Behar, and Sunny Hassan are in full damage control mode. Lawyers are being dragged into emergency calls around the clock. And the internet? It's ablaze, lit up with commentary, receipts, and a growing wave of support that shows no sign of slowing down.
How do you think voters are going to react when they see something like that on TV?
Voters do not agree with these despicable women on The View. They are wildly out of touch with the vast majority of Americans, and frankly, they should seek immediate help.
After all the pressure, many assumed Caroline would take the easy out. Cut a quiet deal, cash a settlement check, and call it a win. But Caroline Leavitt had no interest in shortcuts. Her team released a bold, unmistakable statement. Asterisk, this lawsuit is not about attention. It's about principle. We are not negotiating. We are not settling. We are moving forward. Asterisk. And this time, it wasn't just talk. Sources close to the case revealed Caroline's team had widened their investigation. This wasn't about one segment anymore. It was bigger. They were reviewing entire seasons of The View, cataloging patterns of bias, indexing personal attacks made against conservative guests, interviewing former producers, analyzing social media trails, even dissecting offhand comments caught on hot mics backstage. The scope was growing fast. What they were building wasn't just a lawsuit. It was a media accountability campaign, a movement. And Caroline wasn't in it for fame or revenge. She was standing firm to make sure the media finally understood one thing. There are consequences. This wasn't just about her. It was about every guest who'd been laughed at, cut off, dismissed, or mocked on live TV for having a different opinion. With each passing day, her message got louder. I'm not backing down. And now, more people were standing with her. As Caroline dug deeper, ABC began to unravel. Insiders said the tension inside the network was unbearable. Executives turning on each other, departments in open conflict, producers scrambling into emergency meetings with legal teams. The pressure mounted by the hour. Advertisers started quietly pulling out of future bookings. A few major sponsors, household names, were reportedly in serious talks to suspend all promotional activity on The View until a lawsuit was resolved. Then came the leak, an internal email that sent shockwaves through the industry. Asterisk, the brand is compromised. This is no longer just a PR issue. It's reputational collapse. Asterisk, that single sentence spread like wildfire and ignited a storm of questions. Will ABC cancel The View? Will the cast be replaced? Can the show ever recover its audience? No one knows. But behind closed doors, executives are bracing for the worst. They're drawing up contingency plans, exploring spin-offs, drafting format overhauls, even considering a total rebrand. Because here's the simple truth. Caroline didn't just file a lawsuit. She pulled the first domino in a chain reaction that could topple one of the most iconic talk shows in the world. And she's not slowing down. Every day she gains more support. Every hour The View loses more trust. And this may not end with a court ruling or a settlement check. This could reshape how television treats its guests, its employees, and its audience. Caroline Leavitt stood up and said, asterisk, enough. Asterisk, and now the world is watching. So now we want to hear from you. Should Caroline Leavitt keep going? Did The View cross the line? Is it finally time for talk show hosts to face real consequences for what they say on air? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We're reading every one. Hit that like button if you stand for media accountability. Subscribe and stay locked in as this case unfolds, because this isn't over. Caroline Leavitt didn't just start a lawsuit. She started a movement. And something tells us the storm is only beginning.